want to bring in jury consultant Richard Gabriel, who has assisted counsel in major cases, including the trials of Casey Anthony and O.J. Simpson. Richard, welcome back to Top Story. Always great to talk to you. The defense has leaned on body cam video showing witnesses speaking to police in the moments after the incident. I want to play some of that now and get your reaction.
I heard the young man that's on the floor saying, hey, I'm willing to die, I'll do anything. I'm willing to die. I'll go to jail. I don't care. And he was saying it so loud that everyone turned around. When he came in, he was unbelievably off the charts. He scared the living daylights out of everyone.
So the jury heard from witnesses like that who were on the subway train. How much is that going to help the defense?
Well, I think it does help the defense because it mainly goes to the threat. The issue is that you've got 12 jurors, a lot of them obviously subway riders. You've got people from the upper and west and east sides. You've got lower people from all over the city who ride the subway. A number of those jurors also have experienced outbursts on trains, and some have even felt threatened. So really it has to do with how they interpret what his threat level was, whether it was just an outburst or whether people really felt scared and felt like he had to be subdued. Although the prosecution has done, I think, a smart job of trying to navigate that by saying he started out by doing the right thing, but then maintained it for too long. And I think what's going to be interesting now is really how you've got two attorneys on this jury, as well as a paralegal and also a healthcare worker. They're going to factor, I think, significantly into how these deliberations go and how they interpret the evidence from some of the medical testimony as well as from the other testimony as to what happened in the case. Yeah,
you mentioned the jury and their roles, and I do want to ask you about that, right? Because everybody who lived in New York City during the pandemic, post-pandemic, I mean, there was issues with crime and safety. I don't think anyone will deny that. You wonder if these jurors have also, been subway riders, if they've experienced this kind of thing, and also being a jury in Manhattan, right? Will they side with someone who was trying to defend other subway riders, according to their lawyers, or a man who was in need potentially of help? Somebody who clearly was having potentially a mental health breakdown, and somebody who was in need of both financial assistance and was obviously going through a lot. Will they sympathize with that? How are you reading the jury so far?
Well, it has to do with really their personal interpretation of safety and what they feel comfortable with. That's why jury selection is so important, because you're reading their body language and how fearful they are. Because there are some jurors who see this all the time. There are some of the subway riders who said they didn't feel threatened at all. They've seen these kinds of outbursts all the time. There's some subway riders in that car who said, I felt really afraid. So it's really the personal interpretation of safety and really how threatened they felt that I think is going to lean one way or the other. And then the last thing really has to do with how they interpret those jury instructions and that verdict form as to what constitute sort of that reckless indifference to his life. That's going to be key as well.
I want to hone in on that, right? Because Emily just mentioned that. We know the jury requested the judge reread some instructions about the exact crime Penny is being charged with after they began deliberations today. What does that tell you, if anything?
Well, again, they're honing in. They want to know, the problem is a lot of jury instructions kind of go over jurors' heads. They hear it. They're just so loaded down with so much information that oftentimes it kind of passes over them. So as they start honing in on the issues in the case and going, how do we interpret these verdict questions? A lot of times they're like, I need to hear those instructions again just to kind of try and interpret them, because they're legal language. A lot of it is kind of mumbo jumbo for a lot of jurors, and they're trying to really hone in. What does this mean? How do I apply this to the verdict questions I have to decide?
Richard Gabriel, for us, always fascinating to talk to you. I'm sure we're going to talk a lot in the future as well. Still ahead tonight, the police update after a Hawaiian